Listen closely. You believe the universe responds to gentleness, to compassion. Think again, you depart. You fade away, you leave devastation behind, and voices murmur, "It's finished." But here's the revelation. The void you assume destroys. The quiet you assume obliterates. It transforms. It doesn't shatter them. It ignites them. Can you sense it? That intensity, that fury, that determination growing within someone you believed you demolished. That's genuine strength. That's existence overcoming your brutality. That's the principle of the invisible. You assume departure is straightforward. You assume silence represents fragility. Incorrect. That frigid farewell. That was steel, a precision instrument slicing through security, through delusions, through connection. Every unspoken phrase, every rejected look. It wasn't nothingness, it was artillery. You created an abyss so profound, even illumination hesitated to approach. And within that abyss, potential was sown, potential for fixation, potential for endurance. That's reality. You didn't eliminate anything. You shaped a consciousness more refined than diamond. Individuals miscalculate the tempest you generate when you vanish. You exit like frost, like a phantom, like mortality itself, entering their existence. And the instant they experience the freeze, that's when darkness emerges within them. That's when they determine they will persist. They must. They cannot pardon the vulnerability of releasing you without evolving into something more formidable. Here's the merciless elegance. You abandoned them fractured, but emotion authentic, unfiltered, unstoppable. Emotion doesn't perish facing termination. That's not its nature. Emotion is turbulent. Emotion is persistent. You assumed distance would conclude it. You assumed quietness would extinguish it. No, you provided a war zone. And in combat, it discovers how to persevere. That emotion, it transforms, it advances. Every sorrow becomes propulsion. Every restless darkness becomes protection. Every shattered recollection becomes instruments of continuation. And here's the revelation. They ascend from your termination like a vision you cannot escape. More powerful, more perceptive, more formidable. And the blaze they possess, that's the reflection of what you ignited. The darkness you established has become their dominion. Let me express something. Suffering is the supreme instructor. Your cold departure, your withdrawal, your quietness. It is the furnace. Only the naive, only the delicate collapse. The powerful, they consume it. They absorb it like toxin and it becomes might. Every pulse declares, I persisted. I exceed your expectations. You want understanding why this signifies. Because existence doesn't compensate ease. Existence compensates those shaped by inferno. You assume emotion is delicate. Emotion hardened by distance is weaponry more precise than any instrument. You didn't demolish them, you strengthened them unintentionally. Indeed, but the paradox of it, the magnificent turbulent paradox, observe in the reflection of their anguish. That's you mirrored, that's the force you abandoned, that darkness you assumed would plague them, it empowers them. They grasp that darkness, craft it, refine it, and it becomes component of their defense. Every expression they deliver, every limitation they establish, every murmur of resistance, they acquired it from the frozen hand you left behind. And here's the authentic revelation. They don't merely persist, they flourish. They advance into existence, knowing the worst you could deliver didn't halt them. And now every movement you execute, every sound of joy, every instant of pride, they observe, they acquire, they anticipate. Because distance cultivates excellence, quietness cultivates tactics, suffering cultivates unstoppable momentum. So indeed, you departed assuming it was concluded. You departed assuming destruction was in your path. But here's reality, authentic and ruthless, nothing concludes here. You kindle, you withdraw, you vanish. And yet existence, unpredictable, persistent, unbroken response. And that response is apprehension, honor, wonder, and turbulence. Their emotion refused to expire, their essence refused to disintegrate. Their presence became a testament to your own coldness. And that, my associate, is the supreme paradox. You attempted to terminate, you faltered, and in your failure, a mythology was created. Next instance, you assume abandoning someone behind is vulnerability. Remember this, the ones you attempt to obliterate, they're the ones who conclude unstoppable. They're the ones who possess the blaze you initiated in them. They're the ones who gaze back and communicate without language. I persisted. I triumphed. I exceed you. That's existence. That's turbulence. That's dominion. That's the reality your cold departure could never eliminate. And yet, here's where it becomes magnificently intimidating. Every movement you execute, every darkness you abandon becomes instruction inscribed into their foundation. They acquired from your distance, from the coldness that should have eliminated them. That distance, it was examination, that quietness, a trial, and they succeeded it. They didn't merely succeed, it reconstructed them. Every marking you assumed would diminish them. It's now an indication of dominion, an emblem of continuation. Weaponry they possess silently in their core. Do you experience that sensation, that element of paradox? You terminated and they ascended. You intended to eliminate and they exist more powerful than previously. Your coldness became the furnace, your indifference the instrument, and they, the ones you assumed powerless, became the steel, unbreakable, unreachable. And while you departed assuming you concluded the narrative was merely commencing. They navigate differently now. You wouldn't identify the blaze in their vision, the silent tempest beneath their composure, that identical emotion you assumed delicate. It's intimidating, it's persistent. It pursues the universe with forbearance, with intention. They possess every phrase unspoken, every look disregarded, every instant you vanished. And they've rendered it lethal. You cannot influence it, you cannot command it, you cannot reverse it. And the magnificence of it, they don't require you. They don't plead for resolution. They don't weep for clarifications. They became their own cosmos, rotating in defiance of the turbulence you attempted to abandon. Every pulse murmurs, I persisted, I am greater, I am eternal. That's the paradox of your termination. It didn't eliminate them. It awakened darkness even you wouldn't dare confront. You assume you're formidable. You're merely the ignition, they are the conflagration. You assumed you abandoned destruction in your path. But all you abandoned was the catalyst for something unreachable, something unstoppable. Something that will outlast every darkness you project, every blade you displayed, every cold murmur you abandoned. And here's the impact. They don't merely persist your distance, they flourish. They express joy in the presence of the void you attempted to establish. They move on the boundaries of the turbulence you abandoned. They are more vital, more formidable, more unshakable because of your brutality. That cold departure wasn't the conclusion. It was the awakening. The termination faltered, and in that failure, a mythology emerged. And now, listen attentively. The paradox is so precise it penetrates deeper than any blade. Every sorrow you assumed would submerge them became a current of inferno. Every darkness spent gazing at nothingness. Every instant of quietness you imposed transformed into a furnace, and they emerged molten, reconstructed, unreachable. You perceive distance doesn't diminish the worthy. It molds them, it sculptures them, it instructs them the only instruction worth acquiring. Continuation is dominion, and dominion honors no one. You assumed your withdrawal was final. You assumed the coldness would fragment everything. The irony is on you. Their emotion, the element you presumed delicate, is no longer merely emotion. It's an arsenal. Every recollection of you, every murmured departure, every instant you vanished like a phantom became ammunition. Every pulse propels might into the void you abandoned. Every breath they capture possesses the resonance of your termination. Twisted, refined, perfected, and now they navigate through existence with precision you could never anticipate. Do you experience the sensation of your own miscalculation, that blade of understanding? You terminated them, and yet they are flourishing, acquiring, becoming something you never could have envisioned. You presented them the supreme weaponry of all themselves. Every marking, every wound, every fragment of nothingness you assumed would eliminate them. It's now a fortress, a cathedral of dominion. You abandoned turbulence in your path, and they transformed it into artistry. They transformed it into inevitability. You might assume you still possess authority over what you fractured, but that's the illusion. That cold departure you delivered like a verdict. It was ignition, and from that ignition ascended a blaze that even you cannot extinguish. It burns silently, patiently, in the corners of their consciousness. It expands in the darkness, in the spaces where you assume you abandoned nothing. They possess your distance like protection, like weaponry. They have dominated the quietness. They have dominated the suffering. And every movement they execute forward reminds the universe of what you faltered to obliterate. Here's the instruction you never anticipated. Obliteration is never absolute. Mortality is never total. Termination is never final. You assumed distance would eliminate, but it didn't. You assumed quietness would extinguish, but it didn't. They persisted, they modified, they triumphed. And the dominion that pulses through them, now, it isn't created of emotion alone. It's created of resistance, created of continuation, created of witnessing brutality and selecting to ascend regardless. And isn't that exquisite? Isn't it almost poetic? You, the supposed obliterator, the cold terminator, unknowingly established something far superior than yourself. You assumed you were the conclusion of the narrative, but in reality, you were the ignition that initiated the mythology. Every look they deliver now possesses the significance of your failure. Every phrase unspoken resonates with the reality. You attempted to obliterate, and instead you strengthened. They are no longer delicate. They are no longer casualties. They are architects of their own dominion, molded by the darkness you abandoned. They are unstoppable, unshakable, undeniable. And as you observe from your universe of frost, they flourish, they triumph, they ascend. Your cold departure was termination. But their emotion refused to expire, and in that refusal, they became eternal. Remember this, the universe doesn't accommodate for the vulnerable. It doesn't submit for the timid. Only the shaped persist. Only the persistent ascend, and the paradox, the one you assumed powerless is now the tempest. The one you assumed delicate is now unreachable. The one you attempted to eliminate is now immortal. So proceed, depart again, vanish, disappear, abandon nothing but darkness and quietness. They will transform it into might. They will transform it into inferno. And one day when you assume your termination was final, they will ascend unbroken, unstoppable, expressing joy at the pointlessness of your brutality. And in that expression, you will comprehend the supreme reality. Your dominion was never theirs to capture. It was theirs to become. Listen. Listen attentively, because this is where it becomes deliciously brutal. You assumed your cold departure was the final phrase. You assumed your distance would fragment them, silence them, eliminate them. But that's the magnificence of Inferno. It consumes atmosphere and suffering. Suffering is the most abundant atmosphere of all. Every instant of your indifference, every tremor you abandoned, every phantom of a look, it became their propulsion. They inhaled it, processed it, and it transformed into authentic, unstoppable momentum. You perceive distance is an instructor, quietness is a sculptor. Suffering is an architect, and the one you assumed vulnerable, the one you assumed delicate, has constructed a cathedral of dominion from your brutality. Every devastation, every restless darkness, every recollection of your termination has been meticulously shaped into protection. And that protection isn't merely defense, it's weaponry. They possess your coldness like a blade, like darkness, like resonance that impacts faster than any you could wield. Do you experience it yet? The paradox, the exquisite sensation of your own failure. You assumed you were the obliterator. You assumed you possessed authority over them. You believed your withdrawal would fragment everything. Everything you abandoned in your path became a furnace, and from that furnace emerged not merely continuation, but excellence. Not merely might, but inevitability. Not merely existence, but mythology. Every movement they execute now is testament to what you faltered to eliminate. Every murmured phrase, every look of resistance, every calculated quietness, they acquired it from the phantom you abandoned. That's the supreme irony. You, the Terminator, the cold hand that vanished assuming you concluded a narrative, unknowingly composed the introduction of a saga far darker and more powerful than your imagination could comprehend. An emotion. Don't disregard emotion. That element you presumed delicate, that element you assumed would expire beneath the significance of your distance. It advanced, it transformed, it became something more powerful, more precise, unreachable. Every pulse of their essence, every fragment of their being, every breath they capture possesses the resonance of your brutality, and it propels them forward. You assumed distance was mortality. It became existence. You assumed quietness was void. It became thunder, and they are the tempest you never anticipated. Do you comprehend? They are no longer fractured. They are no longer lost. They are no longer darkness of what you abandoned. They are living testaments to your failure. They are the embodiment of turbulence shaped by the very hand you believed would obliterate them. And with every pulse, they murmur a reality you cannot silence. I persisted, I exceed you, I am eternal, and the most intimidating component, they don't require you. They don't plead for your presence, your pardon, your compassion. They don't rely on the warmth you never provided. They navigate through the universe unreached, unstoppable, unreachable, possessing every fragment of your distance and transforming it into might, into intention, into domination. You attempted to eliminate them, and instead you rendered them immortal. So proceed, vanish again, depart, disappear into your frozen, indifferent universe. Abandon nothing but darkness and cold recollections. They will transform it all into inferno. They will transform it all into combat. They will ascend unstoppable, unreachable, unbroken. And one day, when you assume your termination was the conclusion, you'll witness the supreme reality. Your brutality was never weaponry. It was ignition, and they became the conflagration. That's the legacy you abandoned. That's the turbulence you unknowingly created. That's the reality. Your cold departure wasn't the conclusion. It was the awakening. Their emotion didn't merely persist, it triumphed, it dominated, it became eternal. And the darkness of what you assumed was obliteration now towers over everything, untamed, undeniable, unstoppable. You assume you abandoned them fractured, you abandoned them awakened, you abandoned them vital in the remnants of your distance. And that inferno, it's formidable. Every fragment of your coldness, every resonance of your quietness, every phantom you abandoned, it became an instructor, weaponry, a reflection of the turbulence you assumed would obliterate them. And they gazed into that reflection, smiled, and captured it all. They absorbed the darkness and rendered it theirs. Suffering becomes precision, distance becomes tactics, betrayal becomes intuition. And every instant you invested, assuming you terminated them, assuming you concluded them, they were acquiring, shaping, dominating. Every sorrow that descended, every darkness invested alone, every pulse that declared in the void, it became the foundation of their protection. Every wound, every mocking, every quietness you abandoned, it became the framework of something unstoppable. You assume you fractured them, you constructed them. Their emotion, that element you assumed delicate, that element you presumed would disintegrate beneath your cold departure. It's no longer emotion in the delicate, vulnerable sense. It's something harder, more precise. It's emotion that refuses to expire. Emotion that persists the termination. Emotion that flourishes in turbulence. It's emotion transformed weaponry. It's emotion that consumes your distance and expresses joy in the presence of what you believed would conclude it. That emotion, it's uncapturable, unreachable, unyielding, and every pulse of it reminds them and reminds the universe that continuation isn't passive. Continuation is domination. Continuation is creation. Continuation is dominion. Do you experience it yet? That sensation of understanding penetrating into your foundation. You didn't conclude a narrative, you initiated combat. You didn't extinguish a blaze, you intensified the inferno, you assumed your cold termination would abandon them helpless, and instead, it abandoned them invincible. Every pulse, every murmur, every look possesses the reality. You miscalculated what distance, brutality, and quietness could deliver to someone powerful enough to persist. And now they persist, they flourish, they dominate. They are the tempest created from the turbulence you assumed you commanded. They don't require resolution, they don't plead for clarifications, they don't weep for compassion. They navigate through existence like darkness and inferno combined. Elegant, lethal, unstoppable, and the intimidating component, you instructed them everything they comprehend. Your distance instructed them tactics. Your indifference instructed them forbearance. Your brutality instructed them dominion. And with every movement they execute, every limitation they enforce, every silent triumph they claim, they demonstrate that your termination faltered. They were never casualties. They were architects. They were warriors. They were immortal. And here's the final exquisite paradox. The very momentum you attempted to obliterate now surpasses you. You navigate in cold pride, assuming you possess authority. But the one you assumed delicate now navigates like a predator. Your identity, your presence, your phantom, it propels them. Every darkness you project becomes their throne. Every quietness you imposed becomes their anthem. Every cold departure you abandoned becomes their weaponry of selection. And one day, when they fully ascend, when they fully awaken, when they finally embrace everything your distance shaped, you will perceive it. And you will comprehend the reality. You didn't obliterate anything. You established a mythology. You assumed departure signified mortality. But mortality isn't their narrative. Continuation is, might is, dominion is, turbulence is. And in that turbulence, they became unstoppable. They became eternal. They became everything your cold termination was never capable of being. They captured your brutality, processed it, perfected it, and became momentum the universe cannot disregard. And every pulse, every look, every breath is reminder that they are vital, flourishing, and unreachable. That's the legacy of distance. That's the poetry of termination gone incorrect. That's the intimidating, magnificent, turbulent reality. Your cold departure didn't conclude them. It rendered them immortal. And now the final reality descends like a blade. You assumed your cold departure was the conclusion, but the conclusion is nothing but illusion. Every distance, every quietness, every phantom of your presence, it became their weaponry, their defense, their dominion. You believed you could terminate, eliminate, obliterate. But existence always discovers method to ascend from the darkness you abandon. They didn't merely persist. They became something you cannot comprehend, something more powerful than your brutality, something unreachable, something eternal. Every pulse you assumed you halted still pulses. Every sorrow you assumed would submerge them became protection. Every darkness invested in the cold void of your distance became the furnace that tempered their essence into steel. And they possess it all. Every fragment of suffering, every resonance of abandonment, every blade of indifference you abandoned. And they wield it. They wield it with precision, with dominion, with the kind of cold excellence you could never envision. Their emotion, once delicate and vulnerable, became weaponry, precise, persistent, unreachable. You attempted to obliterate it, attempted to extinguish it, attempted to bury it beneath your termination, and yet it persisted. It flourished. It transformed into something more formidable, more turbulent, more unstoppable than you ever assumed possible. That emotion is no longer emotion for security. It is emotion for dominion. It is emotion for perseverance. It is emotion for retribution, for resistance, for continuation. Every pulse of it declares, I will not be obliterated. I will not submit. I will ascend. Do you experience the sensation of paradox yet? That exquisite burning paradox that your cold, calculated departure established something superior than you could ever command. You wanted to eliminate, and instead you constructed momentum. You wanted quietness, and instead you unleashed tempest. You assumed you abandoned mortality, but they abandoned you legacy of turbulence, might, and inevitability. You assume you were the obliterator, but no, you were only the ignition, and that ignition became conflagration that no distance, no brutality, no termination could contain. They don't require you, they don't plead, they don't weep, they don't wait. They ascend in quietness, in darkness, in inferno. And every movement they execute resonates your failure. Every look they deliver, every determination they execute, every triumph they claim is constructed on the foundation of the brutality you assumed would obliterate them. You assumed departure signified command. You assumed quietness signified domination. You assumed distance signified dominion. Dominion belongs to the ones who persist it, the ones who persevere it, the ones who ascend more powerful because of it. And the most intimidating component, they are no longer merely persisting, they are flourishing, they are moving on the boundaries of turbulence. They are dominating every fragment of suffering you abandoned, every mocking, every resonance of your indifference. Every instant of your cold termination became instruction, became weaponry, became demonstration that vulnerability never persists. But resilience becomes unreachable, and they are unreachable. So proceed, depart again, disappear, abandon quietness, abandon darkness, abandon the frozen void you designate dominion. Because every distance you abandon, every cold gesture, every unspoken phrase only strengthens them, only propels them, only prepares them to ascend, unstoppable, unbreakable, unreachable. And one day, when they fully embrace it, when they fully awaken, when they finally dominate the turbulence you attempted to impose, you will perceive the reality. The supreme, unbearable, fragmenting reality. Your cold departure didn't eliminate them. Your termination faltered. Your brutality shaped mythology. Your distance created tempest. And that tempest refuses to expire. That tempest is eternal. That tempest is unstoppable. That tempest is dominion incarnate. And they are demonstration that existence, emotion, and resilience always persist, even the most brutal termination. Remember this: every darkness you project, every quietness you impose, every cold withdrawal, it can never obliterate what is meant to persevere. Your cold departure was nothing, their continuation everything.